I wake up on the cold streets of Liverpool at 6 p.m. with only 100 crows to my name. I need money fast. I hear there's odd jobs posted at restaurants all over the city. I need to check those out, but it's dangerous here. Proceeding to partake in a beloved pastime of the British, I assault a woman. A group of men instantly try to one-up me by pursuing me with their knives. This is a true British experience. Somehow, 3 guys with knives can't beat me, so I steal one of them and run away. Finally, I can head home and start playing Shadows of Doubt. Shadows of Doubt is a detective sandbox game. You can play a preset case to introduce yourself to the game, but I randomly generated a medium-sized city. Your whole goal is to solve as many cases as possible, increase your social credit, and retire when you feel like it. To start a case, there's always jobs to be found at restaurants by the payphone. Some are simply public humiliation or vandalism jobs, but sometimes you can find jobs for arresting suspects. When you take a job, the client will give you information about a certain suspect and you'll have to track them down. My first new job as Detective Lewis Howard requires me to find a man with short gray hair and green eyes and throw food in his face. I also know he lives on the 12th floor of Chavis' house and that his partner is a security guard. I get to the apartment building and head to the 12th floor. This purple area is an echelon zone. Only the richest get to live here, and a new detective like me is legally prohibited from entering. Luckily for me, legality is the last thing I'm worried about, so I turn off the cameras and break into the first apartment. The first room has some promising stuff. Well, not for the case. The person living here does work for the security team, but they're not a guard. I continue to steal the rest of the valuables in the apartment. Suddenly, a new murder case pops up on the police scanner. Room 1103 in the same building I'm in. Unfortunately, I can't check it out, so I get what I can and continue my robbery upstairs. Eventually, I get tired of lockpicking, so I just start breaking the doors down. I rob the second apartment and meet the owner of the next one outside. She tells me I'm not allowed here in the purple zone. She leaves her door open, so I invite myself inside to investigate. She turns out to be a security guard. Okay, but her husband's not home. I check the computer to identify Melvin Cloud and figure out when he works. To clear my name of the $20,000 in fines I've racked up, I go outside and wait for Melvin. I give him 30 minutes to get home, but only his wife is still there. For some reason, she thinks I'm not allowed to break into her apartment, and as she runs to the disabled alarm systems, I knock her out with my knife. Then, I sit down on their couch waiting for Melvin. He comes in, and he's ready to fight. I throw a bowl of mango rice at him. He keeps coming after me, so it looks like I have to knock him out as well. Before I leave, I realize that I need to call the client to turn in my case, so I use Melvin's phone to get my money. That's an easy $650 and a sync disc, a special modification I can install to make my character stronger. While the police go upstairs to investigate the assault, I go downstairs to investigate this murder. Upon inspection, I'm told that Patrick Davenport here has been violently shot to death with a pistol and the casings are everywhere. There's a pistol on the shelf and I figure that this guy's wife did it. I try to track her down to her workplace since her shift starts real soon. I attack every one of her colleagues, even this phantom police officer in the security room. Now, I figure she's skipping work, so I start asking around the city. These people tell me she's on this street, she's been to this place, she's around here. Finally, I ask one homeless person and they tell me she was at Soyeon's donut store, which I figure is this building right there. As soon as we stop talking, there is the murderer. I tell her I'm arresting her and she gets aggressive. I fight back, but the entire homeless camp behind the donut store starts jumping me. I win the 1v5, arrest the killer, and turn in my case. I found the killer, got her weapon, the evidence she was there, and I know where she lives. It's a fully filled out form ready to turn in for some big cash. I watch in horror as every task to complete on the case is marked with a big fat X. Am I a fraud? Will we ever catch the killer? Is this our lost judgment? I get fined $100.
I lost money!
And I need my handcuffs back. So I find Chaska and I free her. She's unhappy, so I make her unconscious. I return to the crime scene. I find fingerprint D on the casing, but it's almost impossible to find out who has those. I take note of their phone book, but I suddenly pass out due to my homeless inflicted wounds in the victim's apartment. I wake up in City Hall, detained by the police, and I opt to escape from the hospital ward. I wipe the memory of every single citizen in the game by exiting City Hall, and I walk back in like nothing happened. Now, I need to look up every single person in the victim's phone book in the government database to see if I can find a match for fingerprint D. I find a computer that's left powered on, and I accidentally turn it off instead of using it. Oops. Suddenly, I realize that there is a floating head above the desk. I think I'm gonna find a different computer. I find a passcode to the main security room, log in, and start typing names. I finally found a match for fingerprint D, Evie Bourbon. I find out where she lives and start making my way to arrest her. I find Evie's apartment and I knock on the door 70 times until she opens it. I instantly attack her and her partner so I can loot the house. And find more evidence, of course.
Of course, pal.
Evie's wife wakes back up, turning the alarms on. I knock her out and finally find the murder weapon inside of an ashtray. To escape the machine gun turrets inside of the building, I shatter a window with a can of food and climb down. Turning in the case, everything lights up. I get $2,200 for completing all the objectives, and my social credit skyrockets to level 3. I can now buy apartments in the city. This is the general loop of Shadows of Doubt. Do some random jobs for people around the city, and murders will pop up for you to solve. Build up some social credit, buy an apartment, decorate it, and eventually retire. Doing more cases will keep powering up your character to the point where you're able to jump from the 15th floor of a building safely or carry 20 items in your inventory. The best thing to note about this game is that you are not above the law. If you couldn't tell by how I was solving these cases already, you pretty much have free reign to solve cases in any way you please. No one will fault you for breaking into a victim's apartment, stealing everything they have, and beating their wife senseless. Everything you do is to set up a comfy retirement plan, so don't mind the $20,000 bounty you just racked up by taking diamonds from every safe in an apartment complex. Shadows of Doubt is an excellent game that gives you a good amount of freedom to solve cases any way you want. The game supports mods as well, so if you're tired of citizens shooting you with no way to fight back on an equal level, the game has been fully released, but it does feel incomplete at times. It's pretty reliant on the procedural generation of the world for the gameplay loop. Sometimes you're tasked with finding a guy based only on his blood type and that he lives inside of a 17th floor apartment building, but it is what it is. There's not much else like Shadows of Doubt, but the 1.0 release was definitely a bit disappointing. There were 2 new job types added, but not a lot of new mechanics or bug fixes and optimizations. You'll quickly see the limited amount of scenarios and cases the game has as you keep playing. Nothing feels dynamic, and there's minimal consequence for playing like a complete psychopath. I always cause more crime than I resolve, and I receive 0 punishment. If I ever die, I lose some money, then spawn in a hospital that I break out of with 0 effort. Also, the police completely forget about what you've done every single time you leave a building. Overall, it's still a fun game. It's as serious or as goofy as you want it to be. You can definitely solve cases in a more sane way than I did, but the violence lets you solve the case quickly and the theft lets you progress your character faster. I think it's worth checking out regardless of the rushed release. No other game can really replicate some of the situations you'll find yourself in, so I can definitely recommend it. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.